Hello and welcome to today's session, which is going to be the last episode of this 3-episode series about ethical microenterprises in the CoLab. And today's session is going to be about resources, specifically different types of resources to help with your new and upcoming microenterprise within the CoLab. If you haven't watched the first 2 episodes in this series, I would recommend starting there because these episodes build on each other. Talked in the beginning about what is a microenterprise, specifically what that means within the CoLab. And in the second episode, we explored which microenterprises are active and how to interact with them, how to approach them if you want to join them or use their services and so on. In this third session, we're going to focus on resources, specifically social permaculture tool that help people self-organize around microenterprises, especially when we're tackling how to do memorandums of understanding between different teams, team agreements, and who's doing what, how to decide what the microenterprise is doing, and so on and so forth. So that's one aspect of it. Then we're going to talk about digital tools, which are offered within the CoLab. Some are free to access and some are extra, like extra services which we offer in exchange for payment. And then we're going to talk about different marketing tools which are available to CoLab members in order to promote their microenterprise to the CoLab audience and beyond. And then the last resource type, we're going to talk about different resources that I haven't covered in the first 3. So that could include any financial resources that may come up or different opportunities which are available to CoLab members in general and also to microenterprises as part of the ecosystem. And if you're watching the recording, you can simply drop us your questions in the thread or on YouTube and YouTube comments if this is where you're watching it. And I will, as always, link to different materials which support this content. So if you missed anything or something isn't clear, then don't worry because there will be links to different parts of the CoLab where this information is available. You can also contact me directly if you have questions. And the artifact or the supporting document with this recording will be also provided for download if you need it. So the first thing that microenterprises need to contend with is establish who is on the team and what each person will bring to that table. So in this case, we have 2 social tools which we recommend using. The CoLab has tested this quite a lot, and lots of microenterprises have used these 2 tools to self-organize. And these 2 tools are social tools. So what they are is just a template for people to use to come to an agreement where each person sits on the team. So in the case of the team onion, it talks about 3 levels of engagement. So you have the core team, which will probably be the service providers and people who are in that microenterprise who are always there to be supportive. So they have a fixed commitment to be in that team. Then you have collaborators, so people who are dipping in and out, and these could be contractors, for example, or people who are valued as part of the team but don't have enough capacity to always be there. So they have agreements with those people to come in and out on request. And then you have your supporters, and in this you could go as wide as you want, really. It depends how they're supporting you. And it could be, for example, if you're running a service that requires membership, the members would be considered as supporters. And then the core team within that are the people who are providing the service, and the collaborators, as I said, are somewhere in between, right? I'll show you a little bit more about this as well. If I go to the next one, I'm going to start with the team canvas. So the team canvas was developed by the team canvas team, and you can find this on the teamcanvas.com. I will also provide this as part of the artifact, so you don't need to worry about it. And this is just to show you briefly what it consists of. And so the way that the CoLab has been using it within the teams is that each person would complete one for themselves. So they, for example, in the first column, people and roles, they would, let's say Amy is completing it on on my own behalf. So I would write about my name there. I would write which roles I would be good at, what skills I'm bringing to the table, especially in strengths and assets. I would document my weaknesses and risks. For example, I don't know, it could be that I'm caring for a sick dog. And so the risk is I have to drop out very quickly because the dog is old and sickly. Or I have childcare, or I have anything that can be influencing my capacity could go there. So also interesting to capture is personal goals. So each team member has obviously their personal goal for being in that team. So what goals do they have for themselves in being here? And that could be upskilling, it could be access to paid work, anything that really speaks to them. And this makes it very transparent then within the team, because at the end of the day, when each person has completed this team canvas for themselves, they are going to share it with everyone else. And the more transparent are, the more people are likely to get on well together, so that there's no hidden agenda, there's nothing to speculate on, because things were basically upfront. What's interesting also is that there is a common goals box here, and this is where you think, okay, how is that different from my personal goals? It is most likely going to be different. So your personal goals may be in alignment with what you would imagine to be the common goals, because at that stage, when people are completing it individually, they haven't yet spoken about common goals necessarily, right? So that also gives you kind of a kind of initial expectation view of what the common goals people are imagining those to be. Also interesting, the purpose, and this could speak then later to the vision, mission, and aims formulation, which I will talk about a little bit further on. And interesting to see shared values, and then any rules or activities that each person in that team would deem important. So for example, here you might see that some people want to work with people who arrive on time. So for example, tardiness would be one of the rules. Don't arrive late to meetings, or to announce absence. If you're not going to come to the meeting, that's okay, but please let us know beforehand. And this is important for remote teams, also for in-person teams, because it lays the ground rules for avoiding misunderstandings later, and also for trigger points. So if I'm a person that which is triggered by tardiness, for example, by putting it out there already, I'm setting an expectation, and other people can say, oh, but I'm always late, I'm sorry. So if I come in 10 minutes late, that's not to irritate you, but I will try not to come in late. So these are the kind of aspects of, let's say, team dynamics, which are really good to have up front. And this is why this team canvas is used. Once every person has completed the team canvas, then you can together as within a co-creative exercise, create a team canvas for the team. So in all of these answers, then would have reflections from each person. As a team, you can have an overview of what are the people and the roles, what are the common goals, which you have now agreed between you after reviewing everyone's inputs, what are the common values, the rules, and so on. The same for goals and strengths and assets and weaknesses and risks. So this is what I would call a permaculture aligned tool, because it takes into consideration the people care aspect, and I think it builds trust in the beginning, and that's very important especially for remote teams, and especially when working with people you don't know from before. So this is about the team onion. I covered a little bit about it already. Different teams will define different aspects of this in the different way. So because the teams in the CoLab are largely independent and autonomous as much as possible, obviously they operate within the CoLab frame, and we all have also tested this team onion model a lot, If you want more information about it, it's on teamonion.works, and they have downloadable templates as well, which you could access. And here I have provided a copy and paste of some Team Onion definition that was used by a team recently. So they have defined, for example, core. They defined it as intended to be involved with this project in the longer term of 1+ years on a consistent basis. So obviously that timeline can change and it can be defined in different ways by different teams. So this is just an example. The way that we would use it is to basically append the names in the different areas on the core Team Onion, on the Team Onion drawing. And it's also agreed, for example, that this would be valid for X number of months. So you could say every 3 months we will revisit it. So if something has changed, and even though I had made a commitment at the beginning of the project to be active here a year or longer, it may be that I now have a small child and I have to change my commitment from core to collaborator. So every 3 months, the team could decide, for example, to review and renew their commitment to the team and to their place inside in the Team Onion. The other opportunity is that to say, okay, now we have noticed, for example, we only have 1 or 2 people in the core area, and that's not enough. So we need to open up the micro enterprise and recruit 4 more people. Then these could be from the collaborator side or from the supporter side. So it gives a kind of visual input of what needs to happen on this team for the team to remain functioning and healthy. As I said, each microenterprise has autonomy on how to use these tools or if they want to use them at all, but I definitely recommend them and they've shown good results in self-organized teams. What's very important to have, as discussed in the last video that we did, in the last call, is that each microenterprise has to have a vision, mission, and aims. And obviously how we come about this is we recommend that it is a co-created exercise. As I said, co-creation here is very important. And I'm giving here some information about the vision, especially the CoLab vision, which has featured now also in the last 2 calls. This is where our focus is. And then each microenterprise can decide for themselves together what the mission is and what the aims are. What's important also, I feel, is that let's say every year maximum, that the people revisit the vision, mission, and aims, because especially if you have quite a turnover in the team, people may start becoming disconnected between what they're doing and what does that mean in general. So it's always good to have maybe a 1-year review time, and this review time could be in person or asynchronously. It depends really on how the circle is operating. And to revisit that and to see whether what is happening in reality matches what the mission and aims and vision that has been set at the beginning. You will notice that the vision is defined. That's because all microenterprises must have the same vision as the CoLab, because they're a CoLab. It's a CoLab project. And then the mission and aims are decided on independently from this, but in alignment. And this is why everything is connected. Remote working with people requires a load of trust, really a lot. And I find that most issues in the CoLab that we find is that there's lack of trust or not enough exercises to bring in people who are not used to working remotely. So, or have come from a corporate background where things are very competitive, and maybe there is an assumption that someone is trying to sabotage you or something untoward. Let's say maybe you assume bad intent when there is no bad intent intended. So it's important to, at every turn, to build trust and to do things together as much as possible. And so these are small social permaculture tools that help teams build trust within the team and between members. So we recommend that meetings start with an introduction and why are we here? who's here, and also asking some relational questions. So what's on top for you today? Or express how you're feeling, how are you coming into the meeting, and to emphasize questions that build relationship outside of the work. So even if you're there to talk about work, yes, that's accepted and that's true. We must respect everybody's time. So talking an hour about what's on top for you today may not be good. But if something is very serious and you really need to talk into it quite a while, then you can also warn other people in the call, saying, okay, today so this and this happened, or I have a big personal problem. And then the other contributors around the table might say, okay, either they might say, we have time to talk about this and we want to support you, or they might say, at the moment we have this pressing deadline, perhaps you want to take a little bit time off to deal with this personal problem. Again, how people deal with these problems within the teams, or how the person is showing up in, let's say, this working space, depends on the team and the people who are involved. I would say the most relationship building focus, the better relationship you will have, thus avoiding conflicts later. And of course, we have to respect, especially if you have contracts with clients, so being open and transparent about personal difficulties that may have an adverse effect on your colleagues or with a client is good to talk about these things as much as possible and as quickly as possible, so that other people in the team may step in and help you, so that we don't only maintain good relationship and mutual support, but also we maintain the CoLab reputation and level of service that we have towards the clients. Very important. Something interesting as well here is not only starting the meeting like this, but also ending it. So, and focusing on lessons learned. What are you grateful for as you're leaving the meeting? How are you leaving the meeting? And expressions of gratitude or things that we like positive affirmations. I really like it when we are able to talk about difficult things or personal things in the space. Or I really like it when we finish on time, or when everyone's here on time, or I really like it when I'm appreciated for what I'm bringing to the table. So being able to express these things, even small as they may be, really helps to bring the team together around this common purpose, and also to build that trust. That's really important. Again, these are more social permaculture tools, really. This is also, I think, a big one. So compassionate communication, also known as nonviolent communication. Really important if you're coming from, especially if you're coming from a non-permaculture working space. It's good to know how to communicate compassionately. Lots of CoLab members, I would say, are quite well versed about this, and they're able to express maybe frustration or irritation with using questions rather than making statements, and also approaching things with curiosity. I feel that most of this compassionate communication is about maintaining a level of curiosity. And for example, one might say, oh, I noticed you haven't come to the meetings we are scheduling, and I'm wondering how you are and what's keeping you away. At least you are curious about it, and not to say, you're being negligent because you're missing meetings. So staying in curiosity, asking questions is very important, and also encourages openness and deeper understanding towards other people. It also helps to avoid unnecessary conflict, because the last thing you want to happen is that you're making a statement. The statement may feel very true to you, but it's not true for the other person, and then you're butting heads. And in a micro enterprise setting where we're giving a service to a client, infighting or arguments between service providers makes things very difficult. And here I'm going to provide you with all of this, so you don't really need to worry too much about it. You will have this all this information, and also I will provide links where to get the necessary training if you need to. And if you find yourself having a conflict within the CoLab, you can also go to the general circle for support from the other circles. And we have a lot of trained individuals in the CoLab which can provide support about this. Something else that's interesting is to think about the conflict before it comes up. So by having people on the team trained about it and aware about it, it helps to prevent it. It also helps to transform it when it shows up, right? And here I have provided some content from the Minimum Viable Academy, who held a conflict transformation workshop for self-organized teams. And I will also provide these handouts for teams to review. And there's also a link to the recording. So if you follow here, perma.earth/product/MVA conflict transformation, don't worry about the link now, but I will also provide it in the comments so you can watch that training in your own time. In general, humans have similar needs. Remember that in a multicultural space, such as the CoLab, there will be also maybe sometimes cultural differences, how people communicate, how they're expressing themselves, how they behave in meetings, how they work asynchronously. There's differences in time zones as well. So it's really important to try and be as understanding and staying curiosity as possible, as much as possible. And I have used here this little illustration here about the 4 basic human needs for engagement. So especially because micro enterprises are all about engagement, that's very important. So, and that's basically the need for trust. There's not enough time in the world to talk about this because really it's super, super important. And the need to have hope. So what's the hope here? What are we hoping to do together? And how are we approaching this? And then there's the 2 different, what I would call personal needs, the one for self-worth. So you're never putting other people down or each other down. Make sure that there is positive reinforcement and also appreciation for what people are putting in to achieve this. And in this space where we are dealing with freelancing and people bringing in their time, remember that this is a kind of high investment from some people. It's not everyone that has the time to dedicate so much time to micro enterprise business. Remember, a lot of sweat equity goes into micro enterprises. These are small startup businesses, really, and so not putting each other down or talking respectfully with each other and making sure there's appreciation. This is very important. And then also the need to feel competent. And this is interesting because then it also invites us to feel into this. Do I feel competent doing this? Even it's needed, maybe there's no one else to do it. If I don't feel competent, then I will feel hesitant and I'm not confident about it. And maybe it will be easier for me to ask the team, listen, this needs doing. We don't have the competency in our team. How are we going to get the competency, either by upskilling and so on, or are we going out into the world to try and find someone who is competent enough to contribute to this work? I feel that these are really important aspects of how we deal with each other, and it helps the team self-organize around these competency issues. Super important, I feel, that to prepare for conflict before it shows up, so have an agreed policy, what will happen. The CoLab also has a code of conduct, for example. We also have community accountability policies for funded projects, which the contributors are held accountable to. And also the teams have autonomy to self-manage, right? So we have seen in the past when there is irreconcilable differences or perceived harm or actual harm being done to other team members, it is possible to put in a motion or a proposal for a person to be removed from the team. And if the harm is continuous, even outside of the team, then the person can also be removed from the CoLab as an ecosystem. I must say this doesn't happen very often. I think I've only seen it maybe once or twice in the 5 years I've been around. It's always very traumatic because obviously it's not pleasant to have to resort to this. But it's important to know that here there is no tolerance of abuse or repeated abuse or anything like this, especially when people are breaking the code of conduct. So creating psychological safety is important, right? So we want new people and new members and members of micro enterprises to feel safe enough to create in the space that we're offering. And this is important, right? So it goes with the trust. I trust you will not abuse me, and you trust me not to abuse you. And we trust each other to be able to listen even when we don't agree, and to be able to discuss things. If something cannot be transformed, if this conflict cannot be transformed, then there are exit strategies from this. And it's important to know that they exist, but the first go-to solutions are always to try and transform the conflict. And in order for that to happen, I feel that there needs to be some preparation before it shows up. So to have a team agreement, to go through that team building exercises, which I've mentioned, such as the team agreements, the team onion, the team canvas, and agreeing the vision, mission, and aims. Maybe even set up own code of conduct if you need it for your project, if you feel that's necessary. I would say the more supportive infrastructure you have within your team, especially if you haven't worked with these other people before, then the less likely you are to face conflict later. Top tip is to stay in curiosity always, to leave open channels of communication, and to really care about the person that you are talking to. Obviously, there's also other things. You could have trauma-informed communication, which is also part of the nonviolent communication, if you ask me. It's very similar. And to also stay with the commitment that you've made, but also draw your own boundaries and be sure that first and foremost, we are respecting the care for the people ethic in the permaculture ethics. It's more of the same, really, more support with the different types of culture that we want. We want curiosity, accountability, positive feedback, ability to raise concerns, to avoid misunderstandings by asking for clarification, and also feel and be accountable to the team that you are contributing to. I also offer here a co-creative framework for new teams. This basically goes through all of the stuff that I've went through already. It mentions different tools that we have, relational check-ins and checkouts, like I said before, the co-creation of the vision, mission, and aims, the application of permaculture principles, designing for conflict, communication, cultivating curiosity, and then practices of working out loud. And if you're not used to this, it's kind of interesting. Working out loud is a practice where you say what you do. So for example, if my task was to write an article, then when I'm writing an article, it takes maybe, I don't know, a few hours to do that, right? If I'm not finishing it in one setting, then after the first writing session, I would say, on the Slack channel that I share with my colleagues, my micro enterprise colleagues, I would say, today I've started writing this article. I'm about 1/3 of the way through. And maybe here's the draft. So it just tells other people what I'm doing. It keeps the communication open. My colleagues know that I have started working on this, not that it's an abandoned task, for example, and also they know how far through I am. I could also add, I want to finish this by the end of the week. so they know what aspirations I have for it. And if I want them to do something, I should also add it here. And I would say, please review the draft, for example, and please do it by X date because I aim to publish by X date. Always leaving enough time depending on the capacity of the team, right? So if this is a team that meets every week, maybe you might want to give your team a week to get back to you. Again, these are things that you would work out within the micro enterprise, how it's going to happen. And then I also mentioned here the team canvas, individual team canvases and combined team canvases. Okay, now resources provided by the CoLab. The digital tools that are provided for micro enterprises in the CoLab are the Nextcloud, which is a Google Drive alternative, open source alternative, and that allows micro enterprises to store the documents in this shared drive. We also have the Slack. So the CoLab Slack is provided for all the CoLab Slack members to interact with each other. You can have new channels, private channels, or public, depending how you want to operate. And these are all interesting tools. We have marketing tools also for micro enterprises that are available. We have mailing lists. We have a monthly CoLab website, a monthly CoLab newsletter, which goes to around 600 people. We have a CoLab LinkedIn, which you can also use to advertise services from micro enterprises. And we have a CoLab YouTube channel. So all of these are at the disposal of micro enterprises. Also available for free is a page on the CoLab website, together with all the other services that are being provided. So these are like marketing and digital tools that we provide, and we make sure that hopefully they're going to be provided in the longer term, so that people can keep using them. The marketing tools are subject to some checks. Obviously, we want micro enterprises to be incubated before they have access to some marketing tools. So we want to see that the teams have their own vision, mission, and aims, that the general circle has consented to this creation of a new service. And remember that, of course, that there are obligations to being in the CoLab, and that's to maintain the CoLab's reputation and good standing. We have access to a large number of people in the permaculture network and community, and so this is a really good opportunity for a permaculture startup to start into, because you already have an audience that understands what is permaculture and what you're trying to do. Okay, so that's the digital tools and the marketing tools, and we've also spent quite a bit of time talking about social permaculture tools, and now the last thing I want to talk about is other opportunities and what can be possible. So within the CoLab, we have a funding circle, which at the moment is helping to find funding to continue the good work of the CoLab. And through this funding, we provide matching services. So if the micro enterprise has a project which they would like to be funded, they could go through applying for funding through there. There are some requirements for this. Obviously, the micro enterprise has to be already gone through the incubation process. All the members have to be CoLab members, and it has to start operating already as a micro enterprise before being eligible for this. And also there is the opportunity to participate in group funding applications. So for example, if there's an opportunity to apply for funding, they would be considered to be a part of this together with other teams. So it could be two or more teams that apply together for funding to have an activity funded. This could be anywhere from social impact projects, maybe it could be education projects, and obviously it requires collaboration. The CoLab is all about collaboration after all. And next year, there's also going to be the opening of the Emergent Festival again, probably around February, March. There will be an announcement So this is a good opportunity for new micro enterprises to put together a small team, maybe 2 or 3 people, to explore the birth of some new micro enterprise, perhaps. And this is a community-led funding, so the community members who are active in the CoLab get to vote for the projects they want to fund, but it's a good opportunity to participate. And also we have a diversity stipend, which allows for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to participate. For example, if you're all putting in sweat equity and you want to involve someone from a diversity background that is eligible for a diversity stipend, they could apply for diversity stipend to participate in your new micro enterprise in some way. It could be on a consultant basis or on a service provider basis. It really depends. So that's important to know. And obviously, again, the micro enterprise has to be established first, and then this stipend kicks in. If you apply for funding through the Emergent Festival as a seed funding, so to incubate, this is also possible. You would have to have a very good pitch for community members to vote for your project so that you can be very convincing. And we've already had a successful seeding program or picture forming program around a new circle this year, which is the permaculture in Africa. It's not a micro enterprise, it's more of an interest group to support grassroots projects from Africa to join and participate in the CoLab. And yeah, this went very well, and it was very well received by the community. So it's definitely possible to incubate using such seed funding. I think that's pretty much it for today. And this is the end of a 3-episode series. Maybe there will be more as things progress, and there will be more things to share with you. If you're curious about extra tools, the Digital Circle also offered extra tools for micro enterprises, such as a customer database through Baserow, for example, that's offered at a price, and you can ask about this in the Digital Circle channel. And we also have opportunities to participate in different kinds of research. For example, if your team is working around inclusion or organizational inclusion, for example, you could approach the Inclusive Organization Tools project, which is currently funded through the Next Steps project, to see whether there's an alignment and whether they would be able to support you. I remain available as a startup and business innovation person in the CoLab right now, funded through the Next Steps project as well, to be able to help you and take you through your next steps. I'm always very excited to see new and upcoming innovative projects and services, and I believe that micro enterprise has a big place in the financial sustainability of the CoLab, and this is why I'm very happy to support this project and to support you as a CoLab member coming into the space. If you're watching this and you are not a CoLab member, but you're very excited after hearing all this to become one, then please visit our membership page on our website, which is perma.earth. And we look forward to hearing from you there. Any questions, please leave them in the comments, and over and out. Have a good evening.